I know that I am not the only military spouse who wishes I would have understood this tool, this benefit better. The truth is, if you or your spouse have served, your family has earned the VA loan benefit, but the problem is nobody is teaching us how to use it, at least not in a way that's complementary to or in alignment with how our personal life goals and circumstances are playing out, including remaining time in service or retirement objectives, okay? I know we have learned the hard way, and that's why this video exists. That's why this meeting exists, to teach you what I wish I knew sooner and to give you the head start I wish that I had on the topic of the VA loan. I'm Kimber Hill, and this is my Military Spouse Lifestyle Show, where I cover topics about thriving in active duty military spouse life. I talk about things like remote work, real estate investing, and other opportunities that will light up your life and service. In this video, you are going behind the scenes with me. You're coming into an intimate conversation with a VA loan expert and educator, Michelle. And here in this class, I ask over 20 questions, and you are going to learn so much from me, from Michelle, and from everyone who also asks questions during the event. But before we dive into that, I need to tell you something. TRICARE is now covering Talkspace online therapy, which means military spouses, veterans, and dependents have access to online mental health care. So that means you can chat in, you can video call in, or you can just talk over the phone with a therapist who gets military life. And the great thing about this is I was matched in under 3 hours to my therapist. And then I had my appointment in under 5 days. So this is awesome. You're not going to be waitlisted. You're not going to get in line. And if this is something you think you could benefit from, the link is in my show notes. You can pause right now, go grab that link, set up your first appointment and get matched, and come right back to enjoy VA Loan Bootcamp. Okay, you ready for VA Loan Bootcamp? Class is in session. Let's go. Hello. Hey, everybody. Welcome. This event is about you, and I am very excited to have the opportunity to host it just for you. You are welcome to join us on screen. I know you might have kids in the background, maybe at the grocery store or something. Whatever you're doing, you can turn your camera on. We don't care. I will say, hey, what's up? You may know me from VertForce. I founded VertForce about 8 years ago, and then we launched the military MLS about 2 years ago. And we're super pumped at all the good things that we're doing for our military community members. And I first want to say, if you are not an official military MLS member, just head over to our amazing website, themilitarymls.us, and create your membership. It's super easy. That platform was built just for you to be able to share your houses for rent, for sale, your cars, boats, vessels, anything you're selling. We want to give you like a military to military platform to advertise it to your military family and friends first. Also, if you're shopping any of those things, we want to give you an outlet to try to support your military peers first. So that's the militarymls.us. Yeah, so let me talk a little bit briefly about what we are, so you understand why we're motivated, and our core value here is to bring you this education. So we are a concierge style group of military individuals. The Military MLS was founded by military families for military families to support active duty, transitioning, and veterans in PCSing, relocations. And I think one of the most important things of 2025 that we've really been focusing on this year is making sure you understand how to use the VA loan, you understand what the VA loan is, and why you have earned it. I know it is a little bit of a cheat code to investing in real estate. It is. And there's no reason why you shouldn't take full advantage of it. And so we're going to lay it out for you today to help you wrap your brain around it. So what I do want to say to you is we offer consistently 5 days a week the opportunity for you to book a private no cost consultation with a concierge to discuss and lay out a real estate plan. Right now, I'm personally hosting most of those. Okay. So what we do is we set up 15 to 30 minutes of your time to evaluate where are you in your journey, period. Where do you want to be? And what steps do you need to take to get there? Out of this call today, those of you who choose to book those strategy calls and hop on and complete that call, we send you a Stanley tumbler. We sent out like 30 Stanley tumblers last month. So I had like this huge stack of UPS shipping receipts on my desk that I just moved yesterday. So I think that's pretty cool that you get to meet with a fellow military family and get some really cool swag too. All right. So I hope everybody here understands exactly what the military MLS is at this point. Today's event, the VA Loan Bootcamp, is made possible by NewRez. And you will also get a Stanley tumbler if you book a consultation call with NewRez. If you're ready to just go ahead and skip the strategy call, move to the next step, meet with a lender, we will also hook you up if that's the case too. You don't have to meet with me. All right, let's get going here. The first question that I want to ask everybody after you've completed your poll, if you haven't completed that poll, knock it out. But I want to know who here in the chat wishes they had started using the VA loan benefit to invest earlier in their active duty career. You can put a big old $sign in the chat or throw your hand up like Adam. Thank you, Adam, for participating. Yes, I see a lot. Money, money, money signs everywhere. Oh gosh, I know how you feel. I learned the hard way too. And so my second question for you is, would you think that it might be somewhat helpful to you possibly to have a buddy and a strategy partner to talk through that progress and journey with, especially if you might be catching up? If so, you can put yes in the chat. Yes, seeing a ton of yeses flow into the chat. I see that. And so if you're like many members of the military community, typically what you might start with doing is a quick Google on the topic of VA loan. And I want to caution you immediately, the first thing that's going to pop up are brands with the word veteran in their brand name. And I want to caution you big time, okay? It's important that you develop community with a trusted resource, which is peer-to-peer. This is a peer-to-peer community. Anybody here can speak up. Anybody here can throw any information they want in the chat. This is peer-to-peer. Our Facebook group, which I'll get Katie to drop the link to the Facebook group in the chat. It's peer-to-peer. And the military MLS concierge team is peer-to-peer. We're not Google ads, right? So we're not paying for your click, trying to grab your attention. And so we're not pulling you in. It's important for you to know your rights as someone who's using the VA loan and someone who's going to be investing in real estate. And a part of that is you need to be educated. You need to know how to shop. You need to know what questions to ask. And you need to be in a peer-to-peer network like this one. Okay, and that's really where the military MLS concierge team comes in. You book that one-on-one strategy session. We're going to help guide you to the right decisions and right things for you to be exploring when you're on this journey, because it's a fun journey, but it is very easy to get confused with all the information coming at you. And one of the things that we do is connect you with trusted lenders and trusted agents, those who are vetted in the VA loan experience. Later in this call, I'm going to talk a lot about why you want to work with people who typically have served and have been in your shoes and know what that product is like, specifically having used it themselves, versus what could happen if you don't. I'm not going to cover that right now, but just to give you a heads up, that's going to be something you want to put in your back pocket and understand. Awesome. NewRez, we're so happy that you're here. Let's go ahead and take a second to get to know everybody on the call. There's this fun thing that I like to do when we're kicking these calls off right before we bring our guests on, is I love to do an icebreaker and ask a couple of people who want to come on screen. You don't have to, but if you want to come on screen, you can, and you can tell me, number one, where you're stationed. Number two, what kind of experience you have using the VA loan. You can tell me things like, did you buy a home with it? Or did you use a conventional loan instead? Just tell me kind of like where you are with real estate and where you want to be. You can throw your hand up if you want to come in. just like this right here. And then I'll wait just a second to see who wants to join us for our icebreaker on screen. Oh, hey, Renee is coming in. That's my friend. Hello, Taylor. I would love to have you kick us off. You're on mute.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, everybody. My name is Taylor. My husband is in the service. We're stationed at Fort Benning, Georgia right now. We don't have any experience using the VA loan, but this is why I'm here to learn about this. He's actually out in the field right now. So I just wanted to come in and see exactly what expertise you guys have to offer regarding the VA loan, how to use it, and the benefits that it could provide to us as first-time home buyers in the near future. Um, so yeah, I
Yes.
just wanted to see what I could learn regarding this information session.
You're so smart. I'm so happy you're here. Taylor, have you bought a house before?
No, we have not. This would be our first time going around and just seeing like exactly what entails home buying,
Okay.
especially with the VA loan outside of that because he's prior service, so he actually just re-enlisted this year. He came back
Okay.
in March. So the last time he was in service, like we kind of like looked into VA loans, but it was just like a lot and we didn't know exactly where to start or where to find like advice at
Overwhelming.
or anybody that actually went through the process.
Yeah.
So this time around we just figured that it would be best to utilize our resources.
You were in such a good spot. Peer-to-peer learning, peer-to-peer advice. We're going to figure it out together. And you can also meet with me later to talk about it further. Buddha, would you like to go next? There you are.
Hi there. Hi everyone. This is Buddha Dongle here from Baumholder, Germany. Stationed I've been here 2 months. So
Wow.
I did bought two house with a VA loan. One in Colorado and one in Kansas. So actually, I don't know a lot of benefits. That's why I chimed in to learn all those benefits to what I don't know. So the one thing I did not know is like when you buy second house with a VA loan, you have to. Well, I forgot the percentage that you have to actually pay on. Go for like I think first one I did it was 5%. And the second one, I think it was a 10%, I believe, or 15%, somewhere there. That,
Okay.
yeah, I did not know that in the VA loan also. Again, 10% of the, like, what the house, you know,
Yeah.
uh, is for. So that thing I did not know. And definitely, I'm still a baby to this, this kind of thing. So I'm trying to learn from you guys. That's the reason I chimed in.
Well, I'm so inspired with you being in Germany, but still
Yeah.
having had two purchases, CONUS. So you're awesome. Thank you. And you're
Thank you.
gonna leave the call today with clarity on what you're looking
100%.
for. Okay, that's
100%.
our goal here. Let's leave with clarity. Francis.
Great.
Hi, I am currently stationed with my husband in Newport, Rhode Island, and we have used the VA loan twice. And our most recent purchase was a multifamily, which I didn't realize you could do. So excited that we were able to use the benefit for that, and it's been really great for us.
Yeah, Francis, you're another one of those people who goes up on my wall of, our military family investor rock stars. Okay, if I had pictures of Buddha and you there, I think it would be really inspiring for me to look at every day. Thank you, Francis, for sharing that. Multifamily house hacking. And I know her personally. I believe that the other half of their house that they're hacking out is an Airbnb. What?
It
Did
is, yeah.
Francis do that? Yeah. All right, Adam, you're next.
Yes, thanks for letting me add in here. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, can
All
hear you
right,
very well.
I feel like an old man here trying to figure out technology. Yeah, so I've been in 20 years. I haven't bought a house yet, ever in my life. About to retire, moving from Alaska to El Paso, Texas. Don't even know how to buy a house, never done it. My original advice from my father-in-law, who served for almost 30 years, was wait till you retire to buy a house. You get a terrible experience. I took that advice, but I learned along the way that probably wasn't the most sound because a lot of people had great success buying houses throughout their time in. So I'm here to learn how to buy a house for the first time with the VA loan.
Adam, I'm so proud of you. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your 20 years. Sincerely, from my heart. I have an incredible mentor. What you said, San Antonio or El Paso? Which one?
El Paso.
Yeah, that's what I thought you said. I have an incredible mentor in El Paso that I would like to introduce you to. Would you please book a strategy call with me? The link is in the chat. I'd love to talk to you one-on-one, because if there's anything that you don't learn today and we need to fill in any gaps, I'll personally do that. And then I'd love to introduce you to my mentor in El Paso, who's the person who told me to buy my first house. Okay. So thank you so much to them. So I want to introduce Michelle Crumley. She is a military spouse, and she is the director of VA Education and Policy at NewRez, which really means she is bringing the big brain energy when we're asking really complex and difficult VA loan questions. Hey, Michelle.
Hello, everybody.
Good to see you. And we have Austin Wolverton. He is a veteran, and he is the sales manager at NewRez. So that means he is going to be able to look at your situation and analyze it 40 ways from Saturday to help you know what to do next. All right, Michelle and Austin, give us a little bit about you.
Well, it is so great to be here with all of you guys. As Kimber mentioned, I am the director of VA Education and Policy here at NewRez. I am a 30 plus year, I don't say how many years anymore, I just sound really old, military, now veteran spouse. And then as well, I've been in this crazy mortgage industry for well over 20 some odd years. I don't say how many they're there. And have held roles from originator to branch manager to coach, national trainer, and today the director of VA Education and Policy. So this is my passion. It is truly what gets me up and out the door every morning, is just making sure that every opportunity that I have to have a conversation, that it uplifts and educates as we talk about home ownership and the VA home loan benefit.
Thank you, Michelle. Austin.
Hello, everyone. I'm Austin Wolverton from NewRez. I did a 4-year stint in the Air Force from 1994 to 98. That seems like a very long time now that I said it out loud. Been in the mortgage space for 25 years now. Sales manager at NewRez. I oversee a team of mortgage consultants, and it's great to be here.
Okay, basics. Number one, Michelle and Austin, what is the VA loan?
So there's a lot of misconception about what the actual VA loan does. So I think first, and I love that we start here, is the VA loan. All VA does is guarantee a certain portion of your loan to the investor in case you default. So VA is not doing the loan, they're not funding the loan, they're not servicing the loan. All VA is doing is saying, if you meet some of these basic criteria that you're working with your lender, and they are allowed to close the VA loan, that loan is going to be guaranteed in case you default. This allows you not to have to pay mortgage insurance because VA is guaranteeing a portion, or if not all of the loan. And it is allowing you not to have to make a down payment, or a very small one if you do have to make one. So I think that understanding that difference, that it's not actually a loan product, that it is VA that is just coming behind the loan and actually guaranteeing it to the actual investor.
Thank you. So huge takeaway there. A huge part of the benefit, no down payment or super tiny down payment. Okay. In some situations, I have personally been in both of those. So we can discuss that if anybody has questions. So we're getting more favorable terms, which makes purchasing a home more accessible. Previously, to being eligible for the VA loan benefit, you typically would be required to bring a 20% or 10% down payment to the table. So imagine yourself walking into a completely new property with 0% down. How much easier does that make home ownership for you? Give me an emoji in the chat to tell me how much easier does no down payment make home ownership for you? That's huge. All right, so having a VA loan expert is probably the most important thing you can do to set yourself up. Thank you guys for the chat. I'm seeing so many happy emojis. Because I've heard a ton of myths and misconceptions about the VA loan, I think Adam brought up a really good one earlier, which is just avoid it and avoid buying at all costs because it's so complicated. Having an expert on your side is going to help set the right course. I've got a list of the top 6 myths that I hear, and I want to bust these for you really quick. You can only use your VA loan one time. Who's heard that? Thumbs up in the chat if you've heard that. You can only have 2 VA loans at the same time. Or you can't have 2 VA loans at the same time, sorry. All right, seeing a ton of those thumbs up going. VA loans are small and they're really only good for people buying a starter home. Tons of thumbs going up there too. VA loans take a long time to close. Have you heard that before? The funding fee makes it complicated and expensive, and you can't rent out a home purchased with a VA loan. Okay, let's squash all of this right now. Take it away, Michelle and Austin.
Austin, do you want to take those? At least the first ones?
Yeah, I can start with the top one. That was, I believe, you can only have one VA loan. That is categorically false. You can have multiple VA loans simultaneously. It all depends on entitlement, whether or not you have to put down payment, but you can have multiple VA loans at any given time. Certainly more than 2.
Absolutely. Yep. And then I think that the idea that it is for a first-time home buyer, for a really small home, just when we talk about entitlement, and we'll get into a lot of the mechanics after we get some of these initial myths busted. But the largest loan a year and a half, almost 2 years ago, that was going through VA's pipe with no down payment was $9 million. So the idea that it is not just for your starter home or your first home. It is for your first, your middle, and your last home, right? It is to be used whenever it is the best loan product for you at that time, the best loan program. So a lot of that goes into it. And then the idea that it takes longer to close and process a VA loan, truly that resonates only if your lender isn't really an expert at VA lending. A VA loan should not take any longer than any other loan program out there to close. Okay, it really shouldn't. Most issues that crop up on a loan has to do generally just because there's some nuances, and if your lender or loan officer isn't terribly aware, it can cause things to go a little sideways, and that can get hard to correct from. I love the one that you can't rent out a home after you purchase it with VA. That is absolutely false. You can absolutely, after you have to purchase it owner occupied. It has to be your owner occupied primary residence, but absolutely, when that time comes and you get orders to the next location, or your job moves you someplace else, or life happens and you're downsizing or upsizing, you can absolutely turn your existing home that you have a VA loan on into an investment property. That is not a problem. So I think that will go again as we talk about the use of it in the future. And then the funding fee. The funding fee, if you owe it, just so you know, the VA loan is not a taxpayer funded loan. If you never use a VA loan, not one dime of your money ever has gone to fund the home loan benefit. If you owe it, that funding fee, whether you're a first-time user or a subsequent user, VA knows that it can be a little bit of a stretch to come up with that in cash at closing. So it is the one fee that VA will actually let you roll into your loan when you purchase the property. I think that's important to know. And I said, if you owe it. So let's just take that one and say that if you are active duty with a Purple Heart, you are exempt from paying the funding fee. And if you have left the military and you have a disability rating greater than 0, which means on your awards letter, it's going to say 10% or more, because they only do 10% award levels. So if you are rated on your award letter at 10% or more, you are exempt from paying the VA funding fee.
So important. So if you're taking notes, write that one down. Your disability rating, if over 0, 10% or more, you are exempt from the VA funding fee, and you can roll the VA funding fee into the value of your loan, which, to be candid, paying a mortgage on $205,000 versus $200,000 is, dollars per month, not $20, not $50. It's just a few dollars per month. So definitely can be better than just coming out of pocket with the cash to pay the funding fee. So thank you for that clarification. Any questions on the funding fee, on disability rating? You want to put those in the chat. We'll try to tackle them, or you can put your hand up too.
We have one out there right now that Ollie had asked, if you buy a house today and pay the funding fee and then you get out, can you go back and get your funding fee reimbursed? Unfortunately, no. But at that point that you have that disability rating greater than 0, right? As soon as you've got that, then going forward, every VA loan that you do you will be exempt.
Yes, in our last boot camp, we had a member who had been told that it was refundable. So that's a red flag. I would say if you are working with a lender who tells you you can get the funding fee back after you claim disability, that tells you this person is a little misinformed, and I need to likely realign with a lender who's got more information about the VA loan, more accurate information on the VA loan. Would you agree, Michelle? Yeah.
Have them explain it and show you the information on it.
I need the receipts. Show me the receipt. When did you last do that for someone? That's a great question to ask. We're going to go over a few more basic VA loan things you need to know. And then we're going to open the floor wide open for chat and start answering your questions. We learn best when we're exploring other people's problems and discussing solutions for them. So that's really what I want to get to in this call. So just keep stacking your questions. We're going to get to them shortly after we finish covering our basics. All right. So I'm just clarifying here. We covered that VA loans are not hard. They don't take extra time to process. The funding fee is not complicated. The funding fee is not expensive. You can rent out your VA loan mortgage property. You can have multiple properties mortgaged by the VA loan, and they're not just small loans. You can exceed millions of dollars on your VA loan. So the other topics that I want to cover for our basics, so we can get to Q&A, I want to talk about factors that we should consider when deciding to buy versus rent at a new duty station. Like the motivating factor to say, I'm not going to live on base here. I'm going to go ahead and explore the VA loan here.
Austin, do you want to take that, or do you want me to jump in?
I'd like you to jump in.
You got it. So when we talk about as you're moving, are you going to buy or are you going to rent, right? So I think that one is, where are you going? What is the real estate market like in that area? Are you thinking that's an area that you might move back to, right? So that if you buy it now and then you go on your merry way, it's someplace that either through your career and retirement you might move back to. Or you're really thinking, I want to start building a real estate portfolio and do that at the first or at this particular duty station. So there's a lot that goes into that. And are you ready, right? Are you ready to be responsible when the appliance goes out, when you have to update the HVAC system, right? Are you ready to get your hands dirty and learn how to repair things? Or do you like picking up the phone and calling the landlord to take care of that? So you need to look at your lifestyle, and you need to look at what you're trying to accomplish, both in the short term and the long term, and make the decision that is best for you.
Thank you for sharing that. And I think very similar advice applies if you're deciding after you purchased and you're trying to decide, do I rent this out or do I sell it before we PCS to our next duty station, right? Some factors that we keep in mind there are, what is the average rental market looking like? And can I cover my mortgage and then some? And then a little bit of extra money through rent to throw back into the savings account for whatever is going to hit the fan, because we know that something's going to happen. It's home ownership. So eventually that roof has got to be replaced, or eventually that hot water heater is going to go out. Do you have anything to add on deciding whether to rent or sell?
I think that you hit that. Sometimes it is, do you need or want your entitlement back immediately?
Yes.
That might have a play in whether you sell or rent.
Yes.
It could be that do you want that phone call at 2 a.m. because of time differences where you are when the hot water heater goes out? Or do you have, what's your plan for that? Or you don't want to be buried in that kind of thing. So
Right.
I think that those are conversations that as a lender will have, a good lender consultant will have with you, but also that your real estate agent that can talk to you about the market and the pros and cons of different homes and different types, that can also help too.
Thank you for sharing that. I want to add to there, if you're in that position and you can't decide whether I need to buy and I need to sell, book your strategy call. Katie can drop the link to that now in the chat. But why are we booking the strategy call? The purpose is to evaluate your market. Our concierge team can give you like a high level look at where you're currently at, where you're located, what your mortgage is, or what your entitlement is, and just kind of give you some general pointers and then connect you to an area expert. The Military MLS has a full, complete, built out network of veterans and military spouses who are experts in every market where there is a major military base, and they can liaise with you usually same day and give you a market report. NewRez also has a very cool market report tool. So if you book a strategy call and we talk about, well, I'm probably moving to this neighborhood or this zip code, or this is where I'm currently living, this is my current zip code, we can actually apply to NewRez's property report and get a report card on what the market looks like there. So you can determine, hey, is this the best decision for me? All right, finishing up our basics here. Let's take a moment to break down entitlement first. Let's talk about full, partial, restoring. You could even throw in what happens if you have a hardship. Let's just break down entitlement for everybody so everyone's got a full grasp.
Got it. So we won't do what I do to loan officers when we talk about entitlement, which I make them get calculators out and dust off pencils and erasers and all of that. But I think that having a good general understanding of what entitlement is and how it's used, then you know that the information that you're given by a lender, whether it seems accurate or not, and you can ask specifics to get to the heart of whether they are truly an expert. So when I talk about entitlement, when I talk to our service members and our veterans, the easiest way to explain it is when you are eligible for the home loan benefit, VA gives you a entitlement bank. You have an entitlement bank, and your entitlement bank account is either full, partially full, or it's exhausted. If it's full, that just means that you do not have any entitlement in use on any existing loans that are still out there. You may have had a loan, you've paid it off, you've restored it, it's gone back into your bank, but at that particular moment, if you don't have any entitlement in use on any other VA loan, your entitlement bank is full. And when your entitlement bank is full, VA says that there is no max loan limit that they will not guarantee the full 25% of, so you don't have to make a down payment. So if you have full entitlement and you find that $9 million house, you can buy a $9 million house and VA will guarantee the first 25% of that in full to the lender. You still have to qualify for the payment. All that stuff still stands, but there is no max loan limit on what you are allowed to buy, and VA will guarantee. Okay, full entitlement, sky's the limit, right? Whatever you qualify for and the lender's willing to do. If, however, I have a loan a property I bought and I did a VA loan. So when I closed on my loan, VA dipped into my entitlement bank and they attached 25% of the underlying loan to that property, to that loan itself. So my entitlement bank is no longer full. Depending on how big that loan amount that I did is going to depend on how much entitlement was taken out. 25% of a $200,000 loan, 25% of a $9 million loan is going to indicate how much entitlement is in use. So to figure out how much entitlement you have left, there is math involved. And this, I saw a question out there. How do you find out if you're working with someone that is an expert? The very first question to ask them is say, hey, I have an existing loan that I took out at $275,000. How much remaining entitlement do I have? Show me that math. And if they can't do that, you need to move on, right? Because that remaining entitlement is going to be calculated based on where you're buying, what the max loan limit is in that county, based on how much entitlement you have in use versus how much entitlement that max loan limit would allow you to have. And then it'll tell you how much is left, and you can back into what that loan amount looks like. I have seen an individual that over the course of their career on their certificate of eligibility from VA showed that they had 5 open active VA loans. Okay, 5 of them. They bought at their very first duty station when they were in the military. They PCS to the next station, bought a house there. PCS to the next one, bought a house there, and kept them along the way, and may have even refinanced them as well along the way. But they had 5 properties that had VA loan open and active on it. And it's because of how they made choices at duty stations to buy properties that wouldn't max out their entitlement, that would use it sparingly. They didn't buy their forever home at the first duty station, right? They bought a $100,000 house at that particular time, right? Or they bought a $300,000 house instead of that $9 million house. So they bought with the idea that they wanted to maximize their entitlement usage over time, and that they were able to have 5 open active VA loans at once. So it's going to depend where you're buying, what you have in use as to how much you have left, and your lender can walk you through what that looks like. You also, when you sell a property, you can ask that the entitlement that was attached to that property be restored, put back into your entitlement bank. So you buy, use VA, sell, pay it off, it goes back in your bank. You can even one time take a property that you have, refinance it into like a conventional loan or pay it off, and ask VA one time in your life to restore that entitlement so that you can use it on another property again. Okay. Then there becomes some limitations on future use of that entitlement. So just keep that in mind. We'll get there maybe today, but if you have questions on that, we can absolutely get those answered. But that isn't how you restore entitlement for future use. So entitlement is just how much VA you have in your bank that can be used 25% of the underlying loan to actually purchase that property, what the loan amount is that VA will guarantee. You can always go over it. VA is never going to tell you how much you can borrow. VA will only limit how much they are willing to guarantee. If you go over that, then you're going to share in the guarantee by making a down payment on your portion that is outside of what VA is willing to guarantee. Okay. Easy numbers. Let's say that based on your remaining entitlement, VA will guarantee $500,000, but you find a $600,000 house. VA is going to guarantee the first $500,000. There's a $100,000 gap, right, between what VA is going to guarantee and what you want to buy. Then in that case, you will self-guarantee through a down payment 25% of that gap. So if it happens to be $100,000, that would be a $25,000 down payment. Okay, which could be substantially less than what would be required on a conventional loan to avoid mortgage insurance, and as well to have a lower interest rate that you would have on a VA loan versus conventional. That's a lot.
So yes, it's a lot. So we're going to take lots of questions, but I think my first question is, were you implying that just selling a house does not automatically restore your entitlement, or just refinancing a loan doesn't automatically restore it? You have to request?
You do, and you have to request to restore it because VA needs to know what type of restoration they're doing. So there are really, for the most part, 2 basic restoration types. Well, two restoration types. One's the basic restoration. I have a home, I have a VA loan on it, I sell it, I say VA, I've sold the house, paid off the loan, restore my entitlement. They need to know whether you've disposed of the property that loan was attached to. If you have, it's a basic entitlement restore. You can do that over and over and over again. If you haven't disposed of the property, when my husband and we lived in Virginia, we had a property in Virginia, had a VA loan on it. We were moving to Alaska. We refinanced that Virginia property out of the VA into a conventional loan, asked VA to free up our entitlement so that it would go back in our bank using our one time in our life, one time special restoration, used that then along with some other additional entitlement, to buy the house in Alaska. But because I have still the underlying property that I own in Virginia that had a VA loan on it, when I go to sell my Alaska property, if I want my entitlement back, I have to sell the Virginia property too. So there's a catch there if you're keeping the underlying property versus selling the underlying property. And that's
So
why it doesn't
interesting.
automatically happen. You have to ask for the restore and provide the documentation as to what type of restoration.
Okay, here's the question. So let's say you purchased a house for $300,000. You pay it down to $250,000. Can you refinance on the VA loan to restore $50,000 of entitlement?
So on a VA streamline refinance, that interest rate reduction loan, no. In fact, the initial entitlement that came out of that first loan is what stays on it, even though it's a refinance of the interest rate reduction. On a cash out refinance, you are actually, that old loan is being paid off and you've got a new loan on there, and that new loan will have a new amount of entitlement.
Interesting. Thank you. So I think the last two things to cover on our VA loan basics are tools and resources that are going to be available to military families that they need to know about when pursuing this journey. So that's going to be, we discussed lightly the community report card and the buy versus rent analysis, but I think understanding what your COE is, why it's relevant, and all the tools that are going to apply when you start this journey. Michelle or Austin, do you guys want to speak to those briefly before we open for Q&A on the floor?
So one of the things that I would say here, and I know that we're going to talk about timing, and we always joke and say you can't start too early, but you can start too late, is having the conversations, whether you are 6 months, 12 months, 2 years out, because that time frame you can use to educate. So your loan officer can be your educator, can be one of the biggest tools that you have to explain, to sit down, to provide blogs, to provide resources, websites, trusted websites. The VA, there's a VA buyer's guide on VA's website that we can give you a lot of information so that whenever and with whoever that you're working with, you've got the knowledge to feel confident in the decisions that you're making.
Thank you. All right. And then that ties me back to VA loan is not the only option. All right. I know we're in VA Loan Bootcamp, but when we talk about building your real estate portfolio, we talk about eligibility, entitlement. You know that there's a limit to the point where you do have to start paying the down payment. You may not have to for your first few properties, but eventually at some point you're going to get there. So I'm going to take a moment here for some of our advanced purchasers in the room and some of you who are already investing. Let's take a moment here to talk about your situation. And Michelle, and Austin, while they are here to talk about VA loans, they're also experts in every other lending type. So Michelle, can I pause here and let you speak to the situations when you expand and kind of graduate beyond using the VA loan benefit?
I can give you a little bit of information here, and then I'm going to defer to Austin because he's going to be the expert once we get out of VA's world.
Yes.
But there are times, right? Maybe you are self-employed and you really have a hard time documenting income, right? So the qualifying could be hard in a normal loan situation. There are, in essence, some specialty loans that might be out there that can help you overcome some of those hurdles or those investment components. Or you're buying an investment property or that vacation home. And now you're looking at, again, something besides VA for that purchase. You're looking at a conventional, or again, it comes a specialty kind of situation. Austin, what would you be talking about in the questions you would be asking when you are moving to some of those other products or programs?
I think you touched on it, Michelle. First and foremost is a standard income qualification. If you've got, normal W-2 pay stub job, if you are self-employed, a lot of self-employed people don't want to pay Uncle Sam, so we have bank statement products. That's one of the specialty lending products you mentioned before. If you're looking to solely buy investment property, we have what are called DSCR loans. Those are debt service loans, which means as long as the house can be rented out for enough money to cover the mortgage payment, you don't have to prove income to buy that property. So
Did I hear you don't have to show income to buy a property? Oh my gosh,
correct.
that's
Yes,
crazy.
that is correct. So,
Yeah. All right. Thank you guys. And then the last thing that I want to discuss before we roll into open Q&A, which guys, get your questions ready. We're going to take them in chronological order. My team's already loaded the chat with where we're going. So the last thing is timing. Let's spend a few minutes to discuss and expand upon when you should, be doing what. I've got my own thoughts and advice on this, but I come at it from the property aspect and the actual purchase of the real estate aspect. Michelle comes at it from lending, and candidly, lending comes first in your journey. So Michelle, would you like to speak a little bit about the ideal timing? But hey, let's do this. This would be fun. In the chat, tell me what you think before you came to this call today, what you thought was the ideal time frame to start exploring your real estate options. Was it 60 days, 90 days before purchase, 6 months before purchase, 1 year before purchase? I just want to see where your head is in the chat, and let's look and listen really quick. 90 days says Michael, Adam, 6 months, Kendra, 6 months, Jordan, 6 months, Melinda, 1 year, Vanessa, a year, Tanya, a year, Grace, 6 months, Noemi, 6 months, Lori, 1 year, Taylor, at least a year, Keisha, 3 months, Mandy, 5 months. Thank you for participating. Let's hear it from Michelle. Michelle, what's the ideal time frame?
So
Why?
And why? That's important, right? And I think
Yeah.
that if we're talking about your very first home, first time home buyer, start talking about a year before you think you might want to do it, right? If you are at a year, a lot can change in a year, right? So if you just teach me about loans, right? Teach me about the options that are out there, debt to income ratios, talk to me about qualifying income versus income that I can't use. Let's talk about credit. What does that have to do? Because if we don't want you, and Kimber can absolutely attest to this, none of us want you to fall in love with the home and then find out you can't afford it.
Yeah.
That's out of your price range, because then
Painful.
everything else is going to feel kind of, what a letdown. So you want to know what you can do first. And if you find out a year ahead of time that maybe there's a blemish on the credit, or maybe you need a little more income or a little less debt, you've got time to do something about that, to get yourself in the position that you want to be in when you get there. So first time home buyer, if you have the ability, start educating and having conversations, finding who you connect with, what works a year in advance. That is phenomenal. 6 months. Okay. If you know your situation pretty well, you've been through you bought a home or two, you know what your finances are, you're a little bit of an old hat at this, then maybe at 6 months, it's just kind of like, hey, I'm getting ready to do this. It's just a quick checkup, a quick refresh. Am I still good? Yep, all's great. You can go on your merry way. So that sweet spot is 6 months to a year, gives you time to make sure you've got your ducks in a row so that when you do and you're ready to go look for a home, you're ready.
Yes. Now, I don't want to discourage you. If you are 90 days or 60 days away from a move, the support system through the military MLS is in place. It's vetted, it's verified. We're already doing closings every single month right now. We just helped a military family close in less than 60 days on a purchase and a sale, and got them $15,000 over asking price. So the network is networking, like it's doing what it's supposed to be doing, and it's working phenomenally. So if you are under the ideal time frame, no sweat, we've got your back. But I will say, if you're going elsewhere, you're using Google, you might accidentally fall into a high interest rate trap without having the time to really slow down and pay attention. You might accidentally purchase a property that's not ideal for you because you're in a hurry. And we don't want you to be in a hurry, but thankfully, working with the military MLS and our network of military MLS realtors and lenders, we've got your back if that is you and that is the timeline that you're in. And also, if you are in that condensed timeline where you are moving in less than 6 months, I encourage you to go ahead and book the strategy call. We will prioritize you. We'll get you kind of at the front of the queue to make sure that we are meeting your timeline and give you space to also, I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be okay. Right? Speaking of taking a deep breath, TRICARE is now covering Talkspace, and this is your friendly reminder to pause, head over to that link in show notes, and go get matched with your online mental health care provider. These mental health care providers really get military life, and I hope that you will enjoy it as much as I do. All right, Miriam, I'm a realtor, and I would love to learn how I can help my clients use their VA benefits or assume loans. Miriam, I would love to interview you for our military MLS realtor network. So
That would
you
be
can,
great.
yes.
And
I would
I'm
love
also
that.
a military spouse. My husband is about to retire this October coming up. We have used our VA benefits in the past 2 or 3 times. We've been flipping our own houses. So we've been doing like house hacking. And now I have clients that are in the VA and I want to be able to, that are military or veterans, and I want to be able to have all the information to give them so I can help them the best I can.
Ah, gosh, I love that. We should do a podcast episode on your experience. Will you go to the military MLS well, actually, maybe Katie can just get you connected via email and let's schedule a call so we can
Yes.
talk about your market, your area, and potentially get you added to our network.
Thank you so much. And I have a question too after, if there is time, because I have already people asking me how they can assume VA loan and how does it work to finance the gap when there's a gap, because sometimes all that.
Yes, you are not the only person asking about that. I think that's about 5 questions ahead of me. So we are going to definitely cover it. Mary says, I have a friend in El Paso looking for a home right now. Is it too late for them to schedule a strategy call? I think there's a lot of things that we would need to know from your friend. Like, are they already working with a lender? Are they already working with a realtor? In that respect, if they have agency with other individuals, then yes, a strategy call would not be appropriate for them. But if they're just starting and they need to gain some professional support, a strategy call would be a good idea for them. And we would welcome you to send them the link, Mari. All right, Ali says, sorry, but how do you choose or trust a lender? And are there signs to watch out for when choosing a lender? I would love to give you some off-the-cuff advice and then let Austin and Michelle speak to this, Ali. One thing that I want to advise is that a few traps that I've personally, and I say traps, they're more like honeypots. Number one, a footnote for your brain to hold on to is just because the bank has the name Army or Navy or veteran in their title, in their branding, does not mean that mortgages are their area of expertise. For example, my checking and savings account is with a popular organization that has one of those names in their title, right? But when I did a mortgage with them, I was left homeless for 14 days because they couldn't close me on time. That's not my fault. That's not the VA loan product's fault. That's because they were not experienced in mortgages. And ironically, not the VA loan, mostly because that's not where their primary income is driven from. So I think, first of all, kind of put it out of your mind that their name needs to be military connected or military affiliated in some way. Second of all, contact your military MLS concierge and ask for the trusted lenders list. Okay, that's going to give you insight into who other military families are using most often. And also, we invite you to explore this option with New Res. They're here on this call today. They are sponsoring this event to make it possible for us to bring you VA loan education. You can see just on this call how knowledgeable Michelle is about it. So trust your peer-to-peer networks. And then Michelle has some pretty cool questions that she likes to use to interview lenders. So I'll pause and let her discuss those.
So I will always say, especially if you're active duty, if your loan officer asks you for a copy of your pay stub and not your LES, maybe you ought to have a different conversation with a different lender, right? So that's automatically a statement that they don't get our culture, they don't understand our lifestyle. Two, ask what is their system, or how do they advocate for their clients when they are making VA offers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do they make a phone call outbound to the listing agent? Can they talk about the VA appraisal process and the reconsideration of value process? We can give you some key words that if they can't then explain, you know that they're not an expert.
Yeah.
I ask them, if you used your VA before, or even if you haven't, and ask them, say, hey, I've got a loan that has a VA on it. It's about a $295,000 loan or whatever it is. Show me how you would calculate. Show me how you calculate how much remaining entitlement that I have. And if they tell you, one, you can't have two loans at the same time, you know to run. But if they can't talk you through and walk you through how they're going to be able to calculate your remaining entitlement, then they probably aren't a VA loan expert either, right? How many VA loans have they closed in the last 6 months, right? If they're like, hey, I'm a VA loan expert, and they can evidence that they've closed 1 or 2 loans, they're not historically doing lots of VA. It takes more than 1 or 2 loans a year to get really knowledgeable and confident in the VA space. So those are just some, and Kimber, I think you've got the list. We can absolutely make sure that we get that sent out.
We do, and Tidewater is a really great way too that Michelle shared with us. There is a scenario called Tidewater, and that's a great way to rule out agents and lenders, or rule in. Those individuals should be able to explain to you what Tidewater is, talk about the last time they went through it, and how they advocated for their clients through it. Michelle, do you want to take a moment to speak on that before we?
Absolutely. So one of the reasons that you hear that that listing agents in many cases try to shy away from, or you hear reasons why they don't like to accept VA loans, has to do with the appraisal process. And it's a lack of understanding of VA's appraisal process that creates that issue. So one of the things that VA has that no other lender does today, in fact, they're all all other investors have, although they are looking, Freddie and Fannie and FHA are all looking to add the Tidewater, or a process similar to that, to their networks as well. And that's where, if the appraiser goes out to the property and as they're going through the appraisal process and it looks like it's going to come in a little bit low, before they submit that appraisal, they are required to do a call out to the agent that is listed as the contact for the property and ask them, what information do I need to know? What comps are you using to justify your purchase price? What is about the house that I don't know about that would maybe help me understand how you came to the value that you're asking on that purchase price? And then they have to consider that information, and then they will at that point finish the appraisal. But it's that first call out that there might be a valuation issue. And real estate agents, what information do I need to make sure that I've considered based on how you came up with the purchase price that you're asking? It's a phenomenal component of the VA loan process.
Thank you.
I think it's important when you're looking to choose a lender. I mean, it's not overly difficult. I mean, and I say that like this to, pre-qual someone and give them a loan, but we try to be more than that at NewRez. And if you're looking for someone, you want someone to be your advocate to help you. What are we going to do to help you get your offer accepted? Are they going to make those outreach phone calls and engage with the real estate agents and fight those misconceptions that are out there in the marketplace about people who want to use VA loans to purchase property? And I mean, I think that's what is the big distinguisher between, like, this is the lender I should go with and versus somebody else. So
yeah, and as a buyer or a seller, you really need multiple forms of representation. You need a realtor, you need a lender, and we also loosely would consider the title company neutral representation. But what's super important is that your realtor and your lender both have at least 50% or more of their business is VA loan or is military connected. And what we love to do is match you with the military connected expert in your area, in your geographical area, for realtor representation, someone who typically is a military spouse or a veteran or a transitioning service member who's, breaking into their civilian career, who understands the loan type, understands the process. Because I'll tell you, when I was homeless for 14 days, the reason is because my realtor and my lender were not communicating. No one was advocating for me to make sure that my VA loan appraisal was requested and issued on time. So it was 21 days late because my realtor didn't know to ask for it and my bank didn't know to schedule it, because I was working with two individuals who were not of this, who were not proficient in this process. So what are we going to do when you call the military MLS concierge team and talk about your strategy? We're going to put you with experts who are not going to let anything slip through the cracks. Okay. So Ali, I hope that answered your question. It was a bit of a long answer. Tamara, do those benefits also apply to the new construction loan as well? We had a ton of people in the chat wanting to know, does the VA loan apply to construction loans, new construction? Take it away, guys.
So with construction financing, so there are, yes, VA does absolutely allow new construction. And there are a couple of different ways that new construction happens. So the first is turnkey. So you want to buy a house from a builder that's already built the house, or you come in and you just pick out a couple of the little things. They're building the house on their line of credit. You come in with a loan at the very end and you pay off the builder. We call those turnkey properties. You can use a VA loan to do that. VA also has a loan program that will allow you to purchase the land and build, and you actually pay and close on the loan. You close on the loan before the building even starts. It's called a one-time new construction loan. VA does that. Most of the time, what you end up when you've got custom homes and the builder's not going to finance themselves, the builder's going to need you to finance them as they're building your custom home. Then in that case, most of the time you're not, again, the VA new construction loan is out there. Can be a challenge to find it for a variety of reasons. But in many cases, you end up doing a two-close loan where you get pre-approved, you get approved with the lender that's going to do your VA loan at the end, and they get you set up with an interim construction loan with a company that does and is great at construction loans. They then do the payouts to the builder during the build, and then you come in with your VA loan and pay off the construction loan and or the land loan. So there's a number of different ways, but VA absolutely does it.
Thank you. All right. And so Jennifer asks, so that was our first question on the, oh, hang on. Sorry. Renee asked, I'm going to hop down briefly to Jennifer because she wanted to expand just briefly on the construction. So what if the spouse is soon to retire? This is for you, Jennifer. We're wanting to purchase land before he retires and then would like to build our forever home. Does the retirement timeline impact the new construction process?
So you'll have two things going on there. One, VA isn't going to finance raw land. If you are not buying the land and constructing on it immediately, you're going to need to get a land loan to buy the land. Okay. The second part, so VA wants the income that is being used to qualify to be considered stable, reliable, and likely to continue. For VA to consider active duty income stable, reliable, and likely to continue, you cannot be exiting the military within 12 months of your closing date. So if you're closing on the purchase of a home and you are getting out of the military within 12 months, your active duty income cannot be used for qualifying. If you're retiring from the military, you can use the retirement income in lieu of the active duty income because that's what your income is going to be. Otherwise, it is going to be talking about what needs to occur regarding finding a job, starting a job, what that's going to look like to determine what other or additional income may be possible. Great question. But if you're within 12 months of getting out of the military, you're a little behind the 8 ball until you get out of the military and we know what your income is going to be, right? Because you're in that flux. And lenders, investors, VA, FHA, they don't like flux. They like to know that you've got the ability and the means to meet the obligation.
So we have 3.5 years before my husband retires. The good news is we have 3 full-time incomes. And what I mean by that is we have his income. We have my pension, which is I retired after 22 years in law enforcement. So I have a permanent pension that's untaxable. And then I also work full-time. So we have 3 streams of full-time income. And we are at this point doing renovation on the home that we purchased using FHA here in New York. And the plan is we would like, well, the renovations that we're doing are getting the house to the point to where we're probably going to realize well over $100,000 in profit when we sell. So the thought was we would just purchase land, set the foundation, do the utilities, and then finance construction costs. So that was what we were thinking of doing.
So if you own the land, then it's talking about the time frame when you want to start and being able to call it an owner-occupied property to meet VA's requirement, right? Because it needs to be an owner-occupied primary residence that you've got to be able to inhabit within a certain amount of time. So we would need to walk through those time frames. But yes, that's absolutely doable.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Jennifer, if you would like to set up a call with them, just complete that strategy form, which we'll get Katie to put it in the chat, and we'll get one scheduled. Okay. All right. So Renee says, what is your definition of tiny when it comes to down payments? So let's say for $500,000 loan, and also what determines the APR? Oh, I love this question. It's a good one.
So the down payment is going to all be dictated coming back to entitlement. So until we know how much if you have full entitlement, you don't have a required down payment. As long as you can qualify for the loan, there's no down payment. If you have entitlement in use, then the question of what this would look like on a $500,000 home is going to depend on how much remaining entitlement you have, where you're buying, right? And then we could work into what that looks like in the way of a down payment. And what could be considered tiny to one person could be considered yep, that word, big to somebody else. Teach me for using grown-up words. So it's going to depend, and it could be, right? There are times that you've used so much of your entitlement and you have so little left that it doesn't make sense to go VA. And those are the conversations then through that strategy session, through the conversations with your VA loan experts, we'd walk you through. Oh, and then what was the other question? APR. So
what determines APR?
The interest rate that you pay every month is different than the annual percentage rate that you will see on a lot of the documents. The APR is a numeric expression of the cost of the loan that you are getting, so you can compare apples to apples and oranges to oranges, right? VA has a funding fee, so it's got a little bit higher fees, typically just a little bit higher fees than what you would have on a conventional loan. And so when you look at the APR, it could be the exact same interest rate for a VA loan and a conventional loan. And the fees could be exactly the same, except you've got the VA funding fee. So when you look at the APR, it's going to be a tish higher on the VA loan than conventional loan, even though your interest rate itself that you're paying is the same. So it is a numeric expression of the costs that you've got that are either built into the loan or that you're paying And so that you can see what that expression is over time, and you can see it compared to other lenders that are offering you the same product, or you can look at it between products to see which one actually has a higher cost to do.
Thank you. Renee, let me know if that does not answer your question. We'll dive deeper. Arnold says, how exactly do you have 2 VA loans? How do you have 2? How do you do it?
Going back to the entitlement calculations, which we can gladly do for you through a strategy session, it would determine whether or not you could buy the second home or third home with no down payment.
He said strategy session, and this is kind of, as far as what we do in the strategy session, we look at your timeline, your income streams, and we talk about exactly what he just said, entitlement. So let's say, for example, you're currently sitting, having not purchased anything, and based on your geographical location, the amount of dependents you have, time and service, your entitlement is around $700,000. So then what I like to do in the strategy session is talk to you about, where do you currently live? Where are you PCSing if you're active duty or if you're retired? Where are you moving next? How many more moves are we going to have over the next 10 years? Let's get that on paper. And then how many of those moves make sense to be investment properties versus just need a place to live where I can build equity and sell it when I leave? And then what we do in our strategy call is we loosely map a game plan. So for example, I was on a call with someone from our last VA Loan Bootcamp. We look over the next 4 years. They have 3 moves coming. Every single move gives them an opportunity to make a purchase with the VA loan on a primary residence, a place where they intend to live long-term, right? But also we know that she knew that she was not going to be at those duty stations for forever. But those were 3 super sweet opportunities for her to use her $700,000 entitlement bank to pick up 3 properties back to back to back in high traffic duty stations that will rent easily if they budget well and make the right decision for investment properties. So that's absolutely a strategy you can deploy. Otherwise, I just helped a military MLS member identify they're going to be in Charlotte, North Carolina for 5 years. And they have 2 options. He's a single male right now. So he has an option to get something super small that's just good for him. And if over the next 5 years he blooms into a family, then he can use life events to get a bigger place and rent out his single small location. So we need to know, we just need to know, like, hey, what's going on in your life? How long are you going to be at this location? Where are you going next? Are you interested in building a portfolio? Or are you just looking for something to keep yourself comfortable and build equity for now? And either situation is okay, but you got to book a conversation to even kind of get to that point. Latanya says, I've used my VA loan several times. Kudos to you, Latanya. How do I go about using the certificate of eligibility for 2 homes and what the process consists of? Okay, so this is a little bit more of the same question that Arnold had. As long as you haven't used your full entitlement bank, all you really have to do is apply again for another VA loan. Am I missing anything there?
No, that's correct.
So Latanya, I think you would need to know, number 1, how much entitlement did you have? How much have you used? And then hop on a call with Michelle's team, identify how much you have left. And whenever you're ready, apply for another loan, for another purchase. Now, there are some restrictions around that, like it needs to be a primary investment property. It needs to be a primary residence. Where you're going to, and there needs to be a justification for moving into that new primary residence. Like, I had a baby, I got married, we had a major life event, death of a loved one. For whatever reason, we have to change the size of our living quarters, or I'm PCSing. Motivations for you needing to change a primary residence, the one that you're currently in, to the new one. And you're welcome to book a call. All right, we covered that one. And that, just to reiterate, the funding fee is waived if you have a disability rating. Lori would like to know, how much on average is the funding fee?
That is a great question. So if you are using your VA loan for the first time, you're going to, and you're not putting any money down, you're going to pay a 2.15% of the loan amount in the funding fee. You can pay it in cash or you can roll it into the loan. If you are a subsequent user of your VA benefits, then at that point, if you're not putting any money down, you're going to pay 3.3% if you owe it, 3.3% of the loan amount. And again, you can roll it into the loan if you need to. If, however, you have cash that you want to invest in the property, maybe you're selling a home and you've got net proceeds, if you put 5% down, that funding fee will drop to 1.5%. And if you're willing to put 10% or more down, then that funding fee drops to 1.25%. So your loan officer would have some conversations with you about how long you're going to be there, whether you want to tie up money in the house or you want to keep liquid, what that would look like so that you're making the decision yourself as to whether or not, if you owe that fee and you want to make a down payment, whether that makes sense or not.
Thank you. I always roll my funding fee in. To me, it doesn't seem to make that much of a difference for our family.
Yeah.
All right, Sydney says, my husband and I are looking to buy our first home in the Bay Area. Nervous smiley face. Is it a good idea to buy in such a high priced area? That's such a great question, Sydney.
Austin, do you want to take that?
I mean, I don't think I would be nervous to buy in any area as long as I knew that the payment for said property made sense for my own personal situation. I mean, especially areas that are, we don't get into the real estate side as far as in the lending world. Like, and I know Kimber's team has better answers when it comes to strategy. Are these areas better for me to buy in now to potentially rent out later or to sell in later? But I would not hesitate to buy in an area as long as after I did the analysis, the payment made sense. So
I would agree with Austin. I've never been nervous to purchase in a high price area. Just because the prices are higher does not mean that it's not going to sell when you're ready to leave, or it's not going to rent when you're ready to leave. You've just got to adjust your mindset to that's normal for that area. We have an amazing military MLS realtor who covers that area specifically. And I'd love to put you in touch to get a market analysis done. And then also we can give you some tips too to help you evaluate your budget and identify if the area is going to be conducive. Realistically, that area you pay as much, if not more, for rent than you do for a mortgage, just based on what we know and how many families we've helped PCS there. So hopefully that gives you some context and helps you make the right decision for your family. All right. So Arnold asks, I have a current home in San Antonio and I want to keep it. And I'm considering buying a second home in California. What's the process? Pros and cons. Awesome. So I think it depends, Arnold, on when you're leaving, when you're heading to California. Do note that if you're using the VA loan to mortgage your San Antonio property and you want to use the VA loan to mortgage your California property, you do have to declare your California property as your primary residence. So it helps to know if you are PCSing there or what's going on. There are so many pros, in my opinion, to renting out a property. I personally rent out properties, and it's been really great for our family. It's been a really great, honestly, passive income stream. A lot of people would argue and tear me apart for calling it passive, but we have long-term renters. We've had 2 tenants who sign leases of 3 years or more, because typically we're renting in military towns to military tenants. You also now have the militarymls.us, which would allow you to advertise your property as a rental to our military members if you're interested in marketing to the military community to find tenants. So I think there are just way too many pros to renting out a property to explain. I would caution you to be aware of the equity that you have in the home and whether or not it's worth cashing out on the equity now versus later. And you can do that by working with the military MLS team to help run some property reports and equity analysis too. Michelle, Austin, do you have anything to add on Arnold's question?
I think I'm hiring you, Kimber. You're now officially a VA loan expert. You can talk about entitlement and you can talk about occupancy and all of those little components when it comes to making those decisions. I love it.
Oh, nice. Thanks. Got a job.
But you need another one.
Yeah, I know. Exactly. Arnold, let me know in the chat if that covered your question or if we need to dive deeper. I really think if you want to discuss pros and cons in depth, let's have a one-on-one. Kathia, does the interest rate percentage go up each time after purchasing a home with a VA?
I can answer that one. That's no. That the interest rate's going to be determined on current market rates. They could be higher if the market rates are higher, but they could be lower as well. So it has nothing to do with how many times you've used your VA benefit.
So no, they do not, Kathia. Does general access to a VA loan work in exactly the same way as for those who are active duty versus those who are retired? We likely won't even be in a position to think about purchasing until after retirement. Yeah, so it works the same way. The only thing that's different is the income coming in to qualify you for the VA loan. Michelle or Austin can speak to that a little bit further, but that goes back to timeline 2 and planning. Also, I don't think we touched on job offers, Michelle. When we talked about timeline earlier, we didn't talk about how the signed job offer can impact your income eligibility.
Yeah. So when you are looking at making that change, right? You're in the process of transitioning out of the military. If you have a job that you've got a firm offer on and that you have accepted, it starts within 90 days of your close date. And the income is a standard normal income. It's nothing funky. It's not self-employment. It's not 1099. It's a nice W-2, 40 hours a week, or a salaried position. And we are talking about it makes sense from what you've done in the military to what you're going to do. Like that, there's a correlation in the job skills that are there. You can. And each lender, some lenders will not do it at all. But NewRez will allow you to have that job offer, clear any pre-hire conditions. And as long as you're starting within 90 days of closing, we can use future income as one of your income sources for qualifying purposes.
So that's super helpful. So Vanessa, the access is the same. Your qualifying income is what changed. And if your spouse maintains or gets a signed offer letter from a new employer with the salary on it, that can be counted as income if you're in that transition period. All right, Miriam says, let's talk about VA loan assumptions. And we haven't really discussed this at all during this call. So this is let me just get my can opener and open the can and dump out the worms. Okay, well, before we get kicked off, I want to say that the militarymls.us, the listings there, we have in parentheses which ones are assumable loans. Okay, so if you are serious about trying to assume another loan and another interest rate and you want to shop other military families who have good interest rates and they're just trying to get out of the house for whatever reason it doesn't work for them anymore, you can check there. I know of a lot that are on our website, but go ahead, Michelle. What do you want to talk about on the assumable loan front?
So there would be two things that I think as a potential assumer or as the person that's maybe contemplating allowing someone to assume your loan that you need to know. Okay. One, all government loans are assumable. So VA, FHA, USDA rule development. One of the features, the benefits of those loan programs is they are assumable, meaning that I, as the owner, can let somebody assume that mortgage. They have to qualify for it, but they can put their name and all their information will go on the note in the deed and mine will come off. Okay. Now, the two things to be aware of. First is you've got to know what the balance is of the home that you want to assume. What's the balance? Because that's what you are assuming, is you're assuming the balance of that property, that loan that's on that property. Okay. That is not what the seller is selling it for. So you need to know how much the balance is that they owe and what they're selling it for. And do you have the means to bring that money to closing for that gap, right? So again, let's say that I've got a loan that I'm willing to let someone assume, and I owe $250,000 still on that loan. okay, at a nice 2.25% interest rate. But I'm selling the home for $300,000. So you're going to assume the $250, my balance at my terms, keep it going, but you've got to bring that $50,000 in cash to closing, whether that's money that you've got liquid in checking, savings, investment accounts, or whether you can get a home equity line of credit or a home equity loan, secondary financing from a company that will be a purchase money second behind the already existing VA and allow you to bring that to closing. But you've got to have a way to pay off the seller for the difference between what you're inheriting in the assumption and what they are selling the house for. So that's the first thing. Know what they owe and what you're going to need to be responsible for, and do you have the means to do that? Then the second thing that you need to be aware of is, as a seller, I can let anybody assume that loan. You do not have to be a veteran to assume a VA loan. VA does not care. Okay? VA does not care. When you think about this, though, that release of liability, that assumption is taking my name and information off the note and deed and putting someone else's name on the note and deed. If they are not a veteran or a service member with their own home loan benefit and enough entitlement to substitute their entitlement for my original entitlement, then my entitlement as the seller stays attached to the loan. I'm no longer responsible for the mortgage. I'm no longer liable if they don't pay. The ABC mortgage company isn't coming after me. It's not going to show up on my credit, but my entitlement is still attached to it, and I'm not going to get that back until such time in the future that that loan is paid off. And Lord forbid there was a default on it, I pay VA the amount that they paid in a claim. So as the seller, I'm going to care, more than likely, I'm going to care if that person that is assuming my loan, whether or not they are a veteran and can and substitute their entitlement for mine. So those are the two things I want people to be aware of.
If they are a veteran, they must have the appropriate amount of entitlement available to assume your entitlement. And if they don't, you're stuck holding the burden of the entitlement. Is that accurate as well?
Correct. Even if they're a veteran and have the home loan benefit, but do not have enough entitlement to substitute it dollar for dollar.
Yeah.
You can't pay it down. You can't do anything funky. You have to have that exact amount or more of entitlement available to substitute for what the seller had in play. Yes.
Okay. Complicated. Fun. Good opportunity. Complicated. Like I know of a property on our site. I know of multiple. Every property on our site right now, I think, has a VA assumable loan. But one, I think that's being sold for the purchase price of the loan, or the full value of the loan, and no profit, just because that family had unexpected orders and they need to leave. So good opportunity. If you want to look at one, let us know and we'll see if we can get you in touch and help you get that ball rolling. Okay. Thank you, Miriam, for your thoughtful question. Brent Dixon asks, what is the FICO and annual income requirement per $1 million in the VA loan?
Okay. So FICO scores. Did you know that VA, honest to gosh, nowhere in its requirements ever indicates a minimum FICO score requirement?
Michelle, what is a FICO score?
That is your credit score. That is the credit score that is given to you by Equifax, Experian, TransUnion. Yep. Thank you. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
VA does not mention that anywhere. The credit score requirements are going to be overlays from lenders, which can be as high as 700 if they're trying to minimize their VA loan portfolio, and maybe more in the range of where New Res is at 580. Because all of credit score is an indication of the overall health of your credit, and it's going to dictate interest rate. So now, if you're talking a larger loan amount, a lender is going to want a higher credit score to feel more comfortable and confident in your ability and willingness to repay your loan on time. Okay. I would say that at $1 million, you're probably talking a credit score that they're probably going to want to see around 680 or higher. It's going to depend on the lender. As for what you're going to need to show in income, there's not a specific black and white answer to that, because it's going to take into consideration, it's going to take into consideration the house payment, what that monthly principal and interest is, what the taxes and the real estate, what the real estate taxes and homeowners insurance is going to be on that property, so where it's located. And it's also going to be considering all the other monthly debts that you have as well. So I can't say that you need $100,000 income for $1 million loan. It could be that you could do it with less, or it could be that based on all of your debts, you're going to need more income. And that's where having that strategy session and taking a look at where you are, what all of your situation is, that we'd be able to help plan and discuss what it would look like and what you would need to have in the way of income. Ideally, you want to use only about 45% of your income for a house payment and all your other debts. Sometimes you can go higher, sometimes you're required to be lower. But if you're in that 45% range of your income being used for your house payment and all of your other debts, you're probably somewhere in that little sweet spot.
Nice. Brent, if you want to do nitty-gritty analysis, hop on the strategy call. Katie will drop the link for you now. Shayla said, we're going to move on to Shayla. She says, we're hoping to buy at our new DD station in about a year. Good for you, Shayla. Kudos to you for thinking this far ahead. Currently own at our last base and rent it out. Good for you, girl. How do we know how much entitlement we have left and if we want to use the VA loan again? It is related to the amount remaining. Is it related to the amount remaining on the loan at the time? So I think first, Shayla, let's get you on a call with Michelle's team. You can use the link that Katie put in the chat right now to request that call, and we'll help coordinate it. In the meantime, Michelle and Austin can speak to some things that you can dig around in on your own.
So one of the things you would want to get a copy of your certificate of eligibility. Now, the lovely thing is you don't have to go to figure out how to do that on your own. You can reach out and we can actually pull your certificate of eligibility for you. And so it's going to tell us how much you have in use. Now, it does not change as you pay your mortgage down. When you took that loan out, VA reached into your entitlement bank, pulled out 25% of that loan amount and put it onto that loan, and it does not change until that loan is paid off. Okay. And so with your certificate of eligibility, we'd be able, and where you are thinking you want to buy, we'd be able to absolutely run the scenario for you quickly to show you how much you have remaining in entitlement and what that equates to in a loan with no down payment. See where that fits in what you're talking about wanting to do, or if you wanted to go over that, what that would look like.
Awesome. I like that you do it for me. The less work for me, the better. Honestly, I have so much to manage being an active duty household. Like, thank you. Thank you for offering that. Mary wants to know, Mandy, I see that you asked a question, but I don't really know what your question is about. So Mandy Parker, if you want to re-ask with a little bit more context, that would help me. Mary Smith, what type of income, like VA compensation and Social Security benefits, is eligible for income qualification for the VA loan?
Austin, do you want to take that? Are you still good on time?
I am out of time, Michelle.
Okay.
Can you get that one for me? I was actually putting in the chat that I need to drop.
Yep, I got it. I get it. I got you, my friend. I got you 6.
Thank you, Austin.
You're so good. No, thank everyone for having me. I really appreciate your time. So
thank you. Thank you for being here.
So when we talk about income, so VA's stance is that the income has to be stable, reliable, and likely to continue. So if we're talking active duty income, and again, it's going to continue for at least 12 months past closing, stable, reliable, likely to continue. VA retirement, stable, reliable, definitely going to continue. VA disability, stable, reliable, definitely going to continue. Social Security income, right? Are you taking Social Security income temporarily, or is it something that you have started taking and that it's going to continue, right? If it's going to continue for the next 3 years, if that's the intent, we can show that you've gotten it or that you're getting it and that it's going to continue, we can absolutely use it. Civilian income, absolutely can use that, no problem, right? Again, showing that you've working, what you're doing, what that income looks like, no problem. When you start getting into things like commission, bonuses, part-time jobs, you get into whether or not it is seasonal income, a second job, then all of a sudden we need to be able to show that this is something that you have done historically. Historical means for 2 years. Then we can feel warm and fuzzy that it's going to continue. The example when I talk about this is when I was in Alaska, I worked with a lot of commercial fishermen, right? They would come in during the summer, they'd work for 3 months, and then they'd be gone until next summer. Well, if you came in and you did that 1 year, you might never, ever, ever, ever come back. You might be like, not getting on a boat ever again. But if you've come and done it for 2 years and you say that you're going to do it a third year, I've got more now to justify the likelihood that you will do it a third year. So whenever we're talking about employment income, it's going to be that stability, what you've done in the past as to how it relates to what that consistency looks like in the future. And that could look different for each individual.
Thank you. Michael Adams asks, how do you ask the VA to do the restoration of entitlement?
That's wonderful. You reach out to your lender. We can actually walk you through that and take care of it with VA. We may need documents from you, evidence that you've paid off the loan and evidence that you are no longer the owner if you've sold the property, so that we know which type of restoration that we're doing for working for you on your behalf, and then the documents to provide VA.
Thank you.
But we can help you with that directly.
Awesome. And Jenny also asked the same question. So Jenny, that takes care of your question too. Gary says, I'm a retired Navy, currently residing in San Diego, California, living in an apartment, and I would like to use my VA home loan that I haven't used to purchase my first home within the next 1 to 2 years. And I have plenty of questions. My current main questions are, how can I tell how much is the maximum amount the VA home loan will cover in my high cost of living area? Does my credit score help or hinder determining this amount? And will this be covered in the strategy call that I've just signed up for? Last question, answer is yes. And I'll let Michelle answer the other two.
So this is the first time you're using your VA loan benefit. You don't have any VA entitlement in use. Your entitlement bank is full. VA does not have a maximum loan limit on what they will guarantee. So if you wanted to buy a $9 million house, you could buy a $9 million house with no down payment. You have to qualify for the payment, right? So VA is going to guarantee the loan, but you have to then show your credit worthiness, your ability to repay that loan. So you have to qualify for it. And yes, a higher credit score will go farther, because a higher credit score means that overall your health of your credit is probably in a better position. But then it's also going to be what debts that you have, right? How much do you owe others? And what will the income that you have coming in allow you to purchase with that monthly payment on what it is that you want to buy, and then all of the other debts that you have out there. And in a strategy call and discussions, we can get through all of that.
Yes. And Gary, I see you're on camera too. So if you want to dialogue on this at all, you're welcome to.
Okay. Yeah. So my question is, when it comes to like the full entitlement, like how would I know? Is there like a website I can check out to see what? Well, you just said the VA. Never mind. I think you just answered it. The VA home loan. There's no max. As long as my credit is good, I can get the home loan, and I can prove that I'm reliable with like a stable job and all that. Then I can like potentially purchase, say, a home here for $800,000.
If you qualify for it, right, and you haven't used your VA before, and you don't have any entitlement in use. So, and we would know that, Gary. What we would do is we would order your certificate of eligibility from VA. On that certificate of eligibility, it would show that you have no entitlement in use, meaning you have all of your entitlement, and VA will not have a maximum loan amount that they won't back, that they won't guarantee. We just have to figure out what it is that you're looking at, what that monthly payment is, and do you qualify with your income, your assets, your credit? Do you qualify for it?
Okay. All right.
Whatever you qualify for, that would be covered by the VA guarantee.
Okay. I look forward to the call. Thank you very much.
We'll talk soon, Gary. Awesome. Actually, I'll have Katie put our YouTube link in the chat now. I invite you to head over to our channel and subscribe. If you know me or you've been a part of our community for a while, you know we talk about things other than VA loan and other than real estate. Other content you're going to find there is like remote job prep, kind of specifically geared to the military spouse. But everything on our YouTube channel is made for you to help you and your financial journey in life and your well-being. So we encourage you to head over there and subscribe. If you turn on your notifications, YouTube will actually notify you when this video goes live versus you having to look for an email from us. But we will also email it to you as a backup. Okay, next question. Noemi, we were the first time home buyers back in November 2024 and used the VA loan. We plan on moving to Nebraska in 3 to 5 years. Our house would obviously not be paid off by then, but could we apply for the VA loan again? Absolutely, Noemi. Choosing to move out of state is a life event, or needing to move out of state is a life event. I'm assuming out of state because you did say you're moving to Nebraska, which makes me think you're leaving a current state. And life events do qualify you to be eligible for another VA loan. Michelle, do you want to add anything to that?
And then the only question would be, if you've got the existing one where you are now in 3 to 5 years when you go to move, is how much of your entitlement is tied up there? If you've already refinanced it out of a conventional loan, we can talk, or out of the VA loan, we talk about what type of restoration that might look like and the limitations that might be there. But you'd only be limited by how much remaining entitlement you have left if you don't sell the existing home and you still have that VA loan on it. We would just walk through those calculations so you could make the decision on what made the most sense for you.
Thank you. All right, Chiquita, can the VA loan be used to house homeless veterans?
So if you chose to buy it and you lived in it, and when you leave, you choose to rent it or utilize it in that fashion, that would be up to you. But it's not a program that can be used to outright buy a property that you're going to use to house homeless veterans. We wish that would be wonderful, but this is for residential purposes only. So no business. You can't purchase a business utilizing the VA loan, and you have to own or occupy the property as your primary residence.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Tanya, I'm 98% sure of this. 98%. She says, I am 98% sure of this answer, but for clarification, you cannot use the VA loan to purchase a property overseas. Correct?
So VA, for lenders that are licensed in Guam, in any of the territories of the U.S., yes, you can. You just have to find the lenders that actually are licensed in those U.S. territories.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of U.S. territories, no.
Okay. So U.S. territories, which are OCONUS, are eligible. So Guam, Hawaii is sort of OCONUS. So we'll wrap that in, as you have to get on a plane to get there. So that's outside the continental United States. And what were the other registered territories that NewRez covers?
Outside of the 50 states,
Mm-hmm.
NewRez is not licensed in Puerto Rico or Guam.
Okay. If you want to buy in Puerto Rico or Guam, book a strategy call. We will help you connect to a lender who can help you in those areas. So yes and no. That's a fun answer. Thank you. Katie, this is one of my team members, and she says, yes, this is a personal question. How does the VA assumable loan work? What changes when they've renovated the property and it's going to appraise for more than what their original VA loan was for? So for example, they purchased it for $700,000, but now it's probably close to $1 million in value. So I think, Katie, that really determines on what they choose to sell it for.
Yep.
And what the gap is between what's owed on the home and the purchase price. We talked about it a little bit more in depth earlier. Do you want to dialogue with Michelle on this?
We actually covered most of it. So thank you, Michelle. When you talked about it earlier, I put it in the chat. I don't know if you saw it. You made it so much more clear than when my spouse tried to explain the assumable loan to me. So I really appreciate that. But yeah, actually, I think you kind of covered it. So if, let's say, they do sell it for $1 million and their loan was for 700, we'd have to fill in that gap between what they were selling it now and what the leftover balance on the loan is, right?
What the current balance is. Yep.
Okay.
You got it.
Thank you. But you made it so easy. So I appreciate it. You got my question. Thank you.
Chiquita asks, can a conventional loan be refinanced into a VA loan?
Yes, absolutely. It sure can. We do refinances into VA loans all the time. It's again going to be a question of how much do you have an entitlement available? Does it make sense, right? And then yes, 100%. You can use you can refinance a conventional into a VA.
Chiquita also says, I've never bought a home, but I inherited my mom's home and assumed her mortgage in 2019 when she passed away. Would I still qualify as a first-time home buyer?
You are generally considered a first-time home buyer if you have not purchased a property and you don't own any property and you haven't purchased one in 3 to 5 years. So if you actually own that property, even though you inherited it, you are the property owner, you may not be considered a first-time home buyer.
And Chiquita, we were supposed to get you set up on a call with New Res privately because you have some other circumstances. I had texted you, Chiquita, to see when a good day and time was for you to contact. So if you want to reply there, I'd love to just get you on a call so you can lay it all out for Michelle. So Chiquita, just text me back. Adam, hit us with your income questions. I don't see them. Adam, do you want to speak?
Yeah, sorry. I think it was kind of answered. It's basically I'm retiring. I was like told, one of those things people tell you, all this good advice that like you have to wait till you have a job to buy a house. Basically like not only just an offer, but like you worked for X number of, months or however long before I could qualify towards your loan or to be like taken as income. I guess that's not true, which is good because I kind of need to get into a home because when I retire, our plan was just to kind of homestead with the in-laws. I'm never sure how long that's going to last. So I probably need to get into a house sooner than later. So thank you.
So your retirement income can be used as soon as your disability claim is finished and adjudicated and you know what that is. Your VA disability can be used as income, and then future income or income based on the job, as long as we can make a correlation between kind of what you've done in your skill level in the past based on what you're going to or you are doing, then your new income can be used as well. Great question.
Thank you. Thank you. Adam, do you have your strategy call booked?
I think I got a message from you saying, am I free this week? And then I think you still got to finalize it, but yeah.
Okay, awesome. Very good. I think we're in like our last 10 questions. Well, first of all, I just really want to say thank you before we get to the end of the call. This peer-to-peer learning and being willing to be vulnerable and like share your questions is how everybody else in the room learns. So thank you for doing that. Second, I want to say if you are PCSing or you have a move or you're planning to purchase in the next 6 months to 2 years, between tomorrow and 2 years from now, let's start a strategy call and kind of start to map out where you're headed. So please book one so we can help you. We can't help you if we don't get the opportunity to just talk it out. Okay. So Michael says, I haven't used my restoration yet, but my old county entitlement was 1.2 million and my new county entitlement is 850,000. Would it be smart not to use my one-time restoration and just exhaust my old county's enhanced entitlement?
So it very well could, depending on what your plan is, how much entitlement you actually have left, right? Because if you have, let's say you bought a $900,000 loan, okay, you've used the entitlement on the $900,000 loan, right? That's attached to it. If you still own the home, right? If you still own it, still has a VA loan on it, and you're not converting it into a conventional, right? You still owe that loan. Then when you look at where you're going, you've actually exhausted your entitlement bank. Okay. So in that case, because you've got a loan for $900,000 with that entitlement, 25% of it already in use, and you go find a property in a place that's $806,500, and it says that you need 25% of that entitlement, and you have to subtract what you have in use from the max that's allowed, you wouldn't have any entitlement. So I would say we would want to get your COE to see what your situation looks like and be able to talk to you about, do you need to sell? Do you need to refinance? Can you keep it as is and just use remaining? We'd want to get a complete scenario.
Thank you. Taylor Marshall asks, what are the main eligibility aspects to focus on when using a VA loan? Are inspections or appraisals out-of-pocket costs I should expect? And are there any state or local level grant programs that can be used with the VA loan?
So the answer is yes. A lot of states have various programs that they have qualifying parameters for, usually income limits, some things like that would provide either the down payment or closing cost assistance. Out-of-pocket costs before the loan closing, you would generally have a property inspection fee if you're having a home inspection. The other closing costs will be due at closing, except for the VA funding fee. You can roll that into a loan. But all the other costs and fees that are part of the loan process are owed at closing. So when it's time to close, now it could be that your real estate agent has done a phenomenal job in negotiating and has negotiated for the seller to pay some or all of your costs. But whatever the seller is not taking care of that are your costs, you're going to owe at closing. And I give generally a decent rule of thumb is somewhere around 2 3/4% of your purchase price. If you have kind of marked that as closing costs, that's an idea of what you would need at closing.
And I will step in and say your realtor is the best person to talk to about this. If you don't have one yet, please allow us to match you to a stellar one. So speaking on that specifically, Taylor, inspections and appraisals being out-of-pocket costs and what you should expect, your realtor should kind of walk you through the home buying process and outline everything that you can expect to pay out of pocket and then what they're going to go to the negotiating table for you on. So a lot of times, for example, we work with realtors who are, especially in this buyer's market, negotiating cash back or concessions to the buyer that actually would cover all of those costs. So while you do have to pay them up front, they typically are then reimbursed at the end of closing or when we get to the closing table. So your inspector over here, you're going to have your own inspector who's representing you, and your realtor is going to help you hire them, and they're going to come in and inspect the property and make sure it's safe for you. The VA is going to have a separate inspector who you don't pay. Well, actually, that's not quite true. The VA is going to have a separate inspector who's going to come in and do VA inspections to make sure the VA's interests are protected. And all of those things are typically purchased before you get to the closing table. But again, your realtor, it's really their responsibility to be negotiating on your behalf and see if they can get things like that covered for you. So yeah, if you want to work with a realtor who's going to do that for you, we'd love to help get you connected to the right person. The grant programs are also going to be something that your lender and your realtor can help you connect with. So Taylor, I hope that you've booked a strategy call if you have a move coming up soon, and I look forward to talking with you if you have. All right, Renee, does the VA allow for land loans and construction loans to be held at the same time? I know we've talked a little bit about this, but we can refresh briefly before we end the call.
Absolutely. So you can't use a VA loan to buy raw land that you do not or are not ready to build on immediately. So VA does not, one of the things that they don't do business loans and they don't do land loans. Now, if you are purchasing the land to build, you can have that loan, whether you've done that by itself, right? You've gotten a land loan and you've gotten a construction loan. Then when the construction is done, your VA loan can come in and pay off the construction loan and the land loan. Or if you used VA's new construction one-time close, you would actually use the VA loan to purchase the land and start and do the construction in one loan that you close on before you even do the construction.
All right, we're going to make that into a YouTube short so that's kind of like pinned to our channel as a quick answer because it's such a popular topic today. All right, so how does a prior bankruptcy or a current chapter, is it chapter, anyway, affect, y'all give me a second. I'm sorry. How does a prior bankruptcy on a VA funded property affect entitlement?
Great question. Okay, so if you had a prior loan and you either had a foreclosure deed in lieu of, or you had a compromise sale, maybe you had a short sale, and VA paid a claim on your behalf because you defaulted or there was a loss on the loan, there was a claim, then VA is going to hold your entitlement hostage that you used on that loan, not on your remaining entitlement. You still have it, but on the entitlement that was on that loan until or if you pay VA back the amount that they paid in the claim. So if VA, let's just say you had $50,000 of entitlement attached to a $200,000 loan. Okay. You had $50,000 of entitlement in use. You go belly up. VA pays a claim. VA is not going to release that $50,000 of your entitlement back until you pay them what they paid in the claim. Now, they may have paid $48,000 in the claim because you went belly up pretty quick, or maybe it was over a period of time, or the difference in the short sale was so small that maybe it was only a couple of $1,000s. So you would find out, if you don't know, how much the loss was to VA, and then your choice is just leave it alone, leave it tied up and use your remaining entitlement, or pay them the amount that they paid in the claim and you can get your entitlement back.
Thank you. That's really helpful information. Yeah, and it might not be a lot. So if something like that happens, there may not be a huge variance. So check into it. Don't be afraid to dive into that. Okay, Melinda asks, is it possible to talk about the steps for buying a home with a VA loan with the vocabulary that is used in a step-by-step kind of sense? Just to have an idea. I'm doing the education part before we take the leap on purchasing. Melinda, I really think this is a great conversation for a strategy call. I can walk you through, and it kind of seems like the way that your question is phrased, perhaps you've not purchased before. And for anyone here who's not purchased before, put a thumbs up in the chat if you've never purchased before, because you are the individuals who, when you connect with the realtor, we want them to be going through a first-time home buyer's process with you. And if any of you would like to do a first-time home buyer's meeting where we just focus on, I have it broken down into 10 purchase steps. A big part of that is connecting with the lender and figuring that out, figuring out the lending component. I would be more than happy to do like an office hours for first-time home buyers. It may be in like a week or in 2 weeks. If you want to put in the chat, I see so many thumbs going up. So if you like the idea of the first-time home buyers crash course, just say yes in the chat. And then what I will do is I will get my team to coordinate something a little more casual with us where we can just walk through a super high-level overview of the first-time home buyers process and how the VA loan connects. Using the VA loan is pretty much the same process every time you use it, but encountering your first purchase, I just kind of feel like we need a 101 class for that because there's so much to think about. And then I'll pause and see if Michelle wants to add anything there. I see so many of you who are like, yeah, let's do the first time home buyers thing. Candidly, I'm going to be really honest with you. First time home buyers is so fun to me because when we go through that presentation, I get to like watch your face go, whoa. And like you getting that moment of enlightenment just like fills up my purpose cup. Having that moment of like understanding how you do it and how easy it is and how it sets you up so successfully long term, it makes me feel like, oh, I love what I do. Michelle, go ahead. If you have anything.
You're making such a difference for individuals because it's not that the process is hard.
It's not.
It just, there's a lot of steps. And if you've never done it before, it can feel very overwhelming. So by having that knowledge and education up front, then you're like, oh, I got this. I know what to expect. No problem. And that is what absolutely Kimber and her team are able to provide. And it is priceless.
Yeah. And then I think the secret there too is if you book a strategy call, you'll kind of get that one-on-one experience and we'll go through the steps together one-on-one. So if you want to go ahead and schedule a strategy call, do that. I would encourage you to do that if you're purchasing in the next year. If your window is longer than that, then a group class is cool. All right, let's keep going. So Melinda, let me know if that answered your question. All right. Saida Ali. This one's long, so I also think some of them have been answered, but we'll read it and answer what did not get answered. I have a few questions, and I want to make sure I'm fully understanding everything. First, is there any type of support or protection in place if someone using a VA loan gets unexpectedly laid off after buying their home? Let's start there. Go ahead, Michelle. Homestead.
Yep, so
and the forbearance. There are options. Yes.
Yeah. So VA, we would involve VA directly, but they do have and your lender, right? So as soon as you find that you are in a situation that's challenging, you want to reach out to the servicer of your loan and start those conversations. And then also you want to actually have a conversation with VA to make sure that you understand all of the differences and options that are out there as well. Because it could be that VA would absolutely allow a short sale if it is a hardship situation and you need to sell quickly because of unexpected PCS orders, a layoff situation, those kind of things. And then from a loan modification standpoint or potential forbearance, those kind of things you would work with your servicer on. So you're going to want to have those conversations really quick.
Yeah.
Start earlier. Don't let it get don't get so far down that road before you pick up the phone and have the conversation. It goes a lot smoother and a lot more options the earlier in the process you are than the later in the process that you are.
Yeah. And I would say one of our very first military MLS families that we helped were about 9 months behind on their mortgage, but because they were active duty, and I think this even applies for veteran, and because they had homesteaded that property, which homesteading is, and it's different in different states, but homesteading is how you file with your state to say, this is my primary residence, I'm a veteran, or I'm a service member and I'm protected. They weren't forced out of the property. They knew that their time there was limited and that they needed to get out of it, but there was nothing that could push them out of the property. So what we ended up doing is we helped them sell their property to pay off their mortgage and the outstanding balance. And then we paired them with several agents who worked really, really hard to make sure that they left that transaction with a little bit of cash in hand to set them up for their next opportunity. Now, what happened to that family is unfortunate. They were in a balloon mortgage, which I don't think this had anything to do with the VA loan type period. This had more to do with just being homesteaded and being a veteran. But they were in a balloon mortgage with another company. And briefly, I'll probably let Michelle take a second to explain what a balloon mortgage is and why that can happen in that situation. Do you want to briefly cover that, Michelle? I don't want to open a whole subject matter on it, but I don't want anyone to be afraid that they're going to get behind on their mortgage either, because this is a very unique circumstance.
Yeah. So first of all, the VA only does fixed rate mortgages and adjustable rate mortgages. They do not do balloons or interest rate or negative AM loans, which all of those are various types of loan programs. Oh, okay. I'm going to finish answering this, and then they're locking this office. I have to go.
Oh no. Okay. I'll do my best to answer the remaining few questions on my own. Okay. I'm so sorry.
No problem, guys. It was wonderful being here. I
Yes.
appreciate all of the questions, and I hope that we helped dispel some myths today.
We did. Thank you so much for your time, Michelle.
Bye.
Bye. I'll take the rest of these questions solo, and we're so grateful for New Res for being with us. I should be able to answer these. So the balloon mortgage is basically a mortgage that starts out with a super low payment, but the full amount of the loan becomes due really soon, like within 3 to 5 years. And so your mortgage payment does exactly what it sounds like. It blows up like a balloon. And a lot of people use this if you're an investor and you're trying to purchase a property that you want to get the low mortgage payment on so you can generate high profit, and then you plan to sell it really quickly. But that can turn around and bite you in the butt if you don't sell the property, or that wasn't your ultimate goal in the first place, or you didn't really know what a balloon mortgage was and would do eventually, such as in the case of that family I was referencing. Okay, so second, let's say I want to buy a home for around $600,000 and I have a job lined up, but no pay stubs or official proof of income yet. Is there any way that can be factored into the loan approval? Ali, it can be if you have a signed offer letter that states what your income will be and what your start date is. And not every lender will accept it, but New Res will consider it. Also, I'm not sure if this was touched on, but are you required to live in the home for at least a year before you can rent it out? We talk about this a lot, and Michelle has really good explanations on it. I'm going to say the bottom line is when you purchase the property, if your intent is for it to be your primary residence, when you are at closing and you are signing paperwork that says it is my intent for this to be my primary residence. You can move out in as little as 30 days. And there are some people who say that's a good idea so that you can buy another property. You can also find yourself in mortgage fraud if you are taking advantage of that system intentionally. Okay. So what I suggest is that you know what counts as a life event and what counts as an opportunity for you to leave. The minimum amount of primary residence occupancy to bypass capital gains tax is 24 months. So for example, I purchased a property that we lived in for 9 months before we got unexpected orders. We've never moved back into that property, and we now rent it out as a rental. If I sell it now without doing any more time in the residence, I'm going to be on the hook for capital gains tax on that property, which I can defer. I can defer into the next property. So it doesn't mean that you absolutely have to pay it, but it does mean that you will need to defer it. You can defer it until you die, honestly. You can defer it into the last property that you live in and never actually experience paying it, but it is something that you may leave to your descendants, descendants is the best term to use there. Okay, but you can also live in it as little as 30 days. Life events are things like, I had a divorce, so I no longer need this 5-bedroom house. I had a child, so I no longer need this 1-bedroom condo. I got PCS orders. My mother needs me to move across town to be closer to her. Anything that you can use to justify leaving the primary residence will effectively justify you. But if you're doing that on wash, rinse, repeat every 30 days for the course of 6 months, you're likely going to get yourself in trouble. So it's up to you and your own discretion, and it is certainly up to your lender as well. I'll say this too, you do not have to tell your lender that you're moving out. I did not tell my lender that we left our property. It really, in my opinion, was none of their business, and I used a different lender to get a VA loan on a different property. So hopefully that gives you some context as well. And Ali says, lastly, is there any kind of list or resource for homes where sellers are open to VA loan assumptions? No, yes. Or do we have to use Zillow? No way do you have to use Zillow. Go to themilitarymls.us and click on listings, and you will see homes for sale, and everyone that's open to a VA loan assumption will say it in the parentheses. Katie dropped the link to the website there in the chat for you. Help us grow this. Okay. If there's anything that I can ask from you in return for this education we're giving today, is take this link, go drop it in your group chat with your service members that you talk to on a regular basis. If you're a veteran or a service member, go share it on Facebook with other military spouses. We need the full military community to know about this free platform where all you have to do is submit your listing and we will advertise it to other families. Right now, we're reaching about 50,000 military families through the weekly newsletter and the memberships that we already have in place. So if you would help us share this link and share our platform, what we can do is grow that. Our next goal is 100,000. And then our goal after that is 250,000. The more military people who know that this site exists, the more we can help each other transact kind of in the community, be aware of VA assumables, help each other sell properties and buy properties. Okay, Isabella asks, is everyone supposed to schedule a strategy call? Isabella, only if you want to make a move in the near future and you want a partner to thought process with you and strategize how to get the most out of your entitlement and your eligibility. Miriam asks, can a civilian assume a loan? Yes, a civilian can assume a VA loan. Ali asks, can you explain New Res? Are they realtors or lenders? New Res is a lending organization. They can lend VA loans. They can lend every loan type, FHA, USDA, they can lend everything. So even, for example, we're working with a family right now who went to them for a VA loan, and because of some different circumstances, they're now in an FHA loan because that was the best option for them. So they lend every type. Michelle is the VA loan expert. Austin is just the general expert over all of the loan types. So I like to have Michelle on these calls because she can get really nitty-gritty on VA loan questions. As far as realtors, the military MLS, our company, my team, we have the network of realtors that we will connect you to if you want support in connecting with realtors. We interview them. We ensure that they are military relocation specialists. We ensure that they are VA loan specialists. We ensure that they are top producers and are working their own transactions and also supporting the military community effectively with high communication and VA loan expertise. So if you would like to work with a military MLS realtor, that is something we can help you with. All right, 3 more questions. Cassandra says, I'm currently living Oconus. Can I still sign up for a call? Yes, Cassandra, the second military family that we supported at the MLS, military MLS ever, was a family living Oconus, and we supported them in purchasing a home in Washington, D.C. while overseas. The third family we supported was also Oconus, one deployed, one in Japan, and we helped them purchase a home in Florida while Oconus and deployed. And we will meet you on Zoom. We can talk over email or we can talk over WhatsApp. We've got your back, 100%, Cassandra. Can you use the VA loan to purchase mixed use property? Lonnie asks this question. Lonnie, can you elaborate just a little on mixed use property so you can talk to me about, does that mean one side of the property is a business and the other is a home, or one side of the property is a rental? Let me know. And then I'm coming back to Mandy here. As we think PCS, I know I'll not have immediate employment. That's fine unless you find remote work through VertForce. If we buy prior to the move, do we need to disclose I'll be losing my employment? It's probably good that I'm answering this while Michelle's not on the call so I don't get in trouble. Lonnie, I think Lonnie dropped, but the answer to Lonnie's question is a light yes. It just depends on what the answer would have been. Okay, Lonnie got off the call. He's my husband. He meant a property that has a residence, but also commercial space. So Michelle actually answered this question on, I think it was our last VA Loan Bootcamp, but the answer was yes. She gives a very full explanation in it. Do you remember it, Katie? Do you remember us talking about it? Okay. I wish I could remember the minute marker But Lonnie, the answer was yes. Let me send you the links to the last 2 VA Loan boot camps because Michelle went very in depth with it. And I would love for you to just hear her answer. And then we can get a call scheduled with her if you want to talk to her about it or open an email thread with her. And then the last question was, do I need to disclose I'm losing my employment? And this is from Mandy. That is up to you, Mandy. So I talk to military spouses about this often. And my first piece of advice is, if possible, try to find a PCS portable career just so you have this not to worry about in the future. Lenders are picky. You will often find that your spouse's income is enough to carry the full loan if they're active duty. So it may not matter, period, but I'm going to tell you lenders are picky because 2 purchases ago, my lender found out I was pregnant and that I was going to be off work for 8 to 12 weeks and dropped me from the loan and told me that my income no longer qualified because there was no guarantee that I was going back to work. That made me so mad. I was just like personally offended by that, okay? It personally upset me. But the reality of the situation is they didn't need my income anyway because my spouse had active duty income with dependents and it was enough for the full purchase. Okay? It's up to you whether you disclose that you are leaving your position or not. I spoke to a military spouse about this 3 or 4 weeks ago. The idea and the name of the game here would be to get the pre-qualification and the financing secured and purchase the home before you move. And if the lender asks you if you are going to maintain your employment during the PCS, you would need to have an answer prepared there or not give any indicators that you are planning on leaving if you want to be on the loan. But the reality of the situation is you may not need to be on the loan anyway. Now, if the lender finds out that you are losing your position, you will likely be dropped from the loan unless you have an offer letter, a signed offer letter at your new location with your new compensation and your new employer. Then you could potentially be re-added. So I hope that helps you, and don't let it scare you. It's just a situation to navigate. I think a lot of the home buying process is just little curves that we have to navigate along the way. And, you know, the reality of my pregnancy situation is it was not the lender's business that I was pregnant or that I was going to be having maternity leave. She was on a call with me and heard someone tell me congratulations, and she asked me if I was pregnant. I should not have answered if I wanted to be included on the loan. Does that make sense? That's none of your business. So I hope that that's helpful for you. Okay, we did it. We got to the end of our questions. Thank you all for hanging in there with me. All 40 of you who are remaining, you guys are rock stars at this process. And I really look forward to a lot of the strategy calls that I know are getting booked. So thank you all so much. And thank you to New Res. We have been here for quite a bit of time. So I'm going to give you a last few CTAs and we will wrap up. I think number 1, go subscribe to YouTube. Let me drop in the YouTube link for you really quick. Subscribe and then turn on the notifications so you can see when this goes live. Number 2, Facebook group. Peer-to-peer conversations happen in the Facebook group. So we will put in the Facebook group link now. If you're not a member of the group, head on over. It's a pretty new group. So unlike VertForce, you're not going to see 90,000 people there, literally. We've just got a few hundred. It's a really intimate space. You can ask any questions that you want. There are no lenders in the group or realtors in the group, so you're not going to be solicited there to work with someone. So it's a really safe space for you to just come and talk and learn from each other. I don't know if anyone else has experienced a really safe space before, but it's a good place where you can go and just, I had a random thought. Let me throw the question on the wall and someone will answer it for you. And then finally, strategy calls. We've posted this 100 times during this call, but strategy call is there for you too. All right, we will reach out via email when the recording is ready. Thank you all so much for your time. I look forward to talking to so many of you one-on-one. And I also look forward to thinking of you, sipping your coffee this Friday and reflecting on this conversation. You guys have a great day. Thank you for watching VA Loan Bootcamp with me. I'm Kimber Hill, and this is my Military Spouse Lifestyle Show. As a friendly reminder, I said it before, but I want to make sure you know again, TRICARE is now covering Talkspace online therapy. So that means military spouses, service members, and dependents can get access to an online mental health counselor. You can dial in via phone, chat, or video call. I got matched with a therapist in under 3 hours and the appointment in under 5 days. I have a link where you can go and sign up and access that. It's in my show notes. All right, please remember to subscribe to this channel if you want more content from us and turn on that notification bell. I'll see you in the next one.